Today is Wednesday, April 22nd, 2026. Happy Hump Day, everybody. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It is a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you today as we journey through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 steps and 12 traditions. Today out of the big book, I should say, we're on chapter 7, Working with Others. We're on page 98. At the 12 and 12, we're on step 12. We'll read page 121. And of course, we'll read the 24 hours a day and daily reflection. So with that, hope y'all are doing well this morning, my friends. Life is good over here. We're halfway through the week already, but the nice thing is we don't have to worry about Thursday and Friday so much. Just this set of 24 hours. And as I'm recording this, it is about 6 a.m., so I only got like 18 more hours to go. So, hey, not too bad. And the nice thing is, even then, we can start our day over at any time. These are all these cliches that I've heard in AA that actually seem to work when I put them into action. You know, you roll your eyes at first, you're like, okay, I get it. I've heard that before. But then when you really think about it, it's like, gosh, dang it, they're right. So with that, let's go ahead and get to the good stuff. All right, my friends. So if you recall from yesterday's reading out of the big book, we talked about being prepared to be divinely inconvenienced, to be there for the next suffering alcoholic, but also to be, of course, patient, loving, and tolerant, but at the same time, and of course of use, but at the same time also use some common sense and not enable. And then we also left off with the family yesterday and how we should try to show them our way of life, that we can still stay in contact with them. And that's where Al-Anon is a beautiful fellowship that helps families and friends of those who are suffering from addiction. I love Al-Anon, and I'm thinking eventually about reading Courage to Change on the podcast, along with the big book. But that's a discussion for another time. We are on page 98. For the type of alcoholic who is able and willing to get well, little charity in the ordinary sense of the word is needed or wanted. The men who cry out for money and shelter before conquering alcohol are on the wrong track. Yet we do go to great extremes to provide each other with these very things when such an action is warranted. This may seem inconsistent, but we think it is not. It is not the matter of giving that is in question, but when and how to give. That often makes the difference between failure and success. The minute we put our work on a service plane, the alcoholic commences to rely upon our assistance rather than upon God. He clamors for this or that, claiming he cannot master alcohol until his material needs are cared for. Nonsense. Some of us have taken very hard knocks to learn this truth. Job or no job, wife or no wife, we simply do not stop drinking so long as we place dependence upon other people ahead of dependence upon God. Burn the idea into the consciousness of every man that he can get well regardless of anyone. The only condition is that he trusts God and clean house. Now the domestic problem. There may be divorce, separation, or just strained relations. When your prospect has made such a reparation as he can to his family, and he has thoroughly explained to them the new principles by which he's living, he should proceed to put those principles into action at home. That is, if he is lucky enough to have a home. Though his family be at fault in many respects, he should not be concerned about that. He should concentrate on his own spiritual demonstration. Argument and fault finding are to be avoided like the plague. In many homes, this is a difficult thing to do, but it must be done if any results should be expected. If persisted in for a few months, the effect on a man's family is sure to be great. The most incompatible people discover that they have a basis upon which they can meet. Little by little, the family may see their own defects and admit them. These can then be discussed in an atmosphere of helpfulness and friendliness. Out of the 12 and 12, we're on step 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all our affairs. All right, my friends, so if you recall from yesterday's reading out of the 12 and 12, we talked about step 12, how single people or people that don't have a family have a unique opportunity to participate in enterprises which would be denied to family men and women. And I love this line here. We daily see such members render prodigies of service and receive great joys in return. And they're part of a beautiful fellowship. And the AA fellowship becomes family. And what a fellowship it is. You'll never have better friends. I can promise you that. And also we talked about how alcoholism played a part in our money oftentimes. And yesterday we talked about how we were oftentimes wasteful with money. And today we're going to talk about how we're on the other extreme, that we can live in fear and miserly once we're sober. So we're going to expand on that on page 121. Upon entering AA, these attitudes were sharply reversed, often going much too far in the opposite direction. This spectacle of years of waste threw us into a panic. There simply wouldn't be time, we thought, to rebuild our shattered fortunes. How could we ever take care of those awful debts, possess a decent home, educate the kids, and set something by for old age? Financial importance was no longer our principal aim. We now clamored for material security. Even when we were well reestablished in our business, these terrible fears often continued to haunt us. This made us misers and penny pinchers all over again. Complete financial security we must have, or else. We forgot that most alcoholics in AA have an earning power considerably above average. We forgot the immense goodwill of our brother AAs, who were only too eager to help us to get better jobs when we deserved them. We forgot the actual or potential financial insecurity of every human being in the world. And, worst of all, we forgot God. In money matters, we had faith only in ourselves, and not too much of that. This all meant, of course, that we were still far off balance. When a job still looked like a mere means of getting money rather than an opportunity for service. When the acquisition of money for financial independence looked more important than a right dependence upon God, we were still the victims of unreasonable fears. And these were fears which would make a serene and useful existence at any financial level quite impossible. But as time passed, we found that with the help of AA's 12 steps, we could lose those fears, no matter what our material prospects were. We could cheerfully perform humble labor without worrying about tomorrow. "24 hours a day, April 22nd. AA thought for the day. People believe in AA when they see it work. An actual demonstration is what convinces them. What they read in books, what they hear people say, doesn't always convince them. But when they see a real, honest-to-goodness change take place in a person, a change from a truly sick person to a sober, useful citizen, that is something they can believe because they can see it. There's really only one thing that proves to me that AA works. Have I seen the change in people who have come into AA? Meditation for the day. Surrender and trust in God are the only conditions necessary for a spiritual life. Divine control means absolute faith and trust in God. I believe that God is the divine principle in the universe, and that He is the intelligence and the love that controls the universe. Unquestioning obedience to God means living each day the way you believe that God wants you to live, constantly seeking the guidance of God in every situation, and being willing to do the right thing at all times. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may always be under divine control and always practice unquestioning obedience to God. I pray that I may be always ready to serve Him. Daily Reflection, April 22nd. New soil, new roots. Moments of perception can build into a lifetime of spiritual serenity, as I have excellent reason to know. Roots of reality, supplanting the neurotic underbrush, will hold fast despite the high winds of the forces which would destroy us, or which we would use to destroy ourselves. As Bill sees it, page 173. I came to AA green, a seedling quivering with exposed taproots. It was for survival, but it was a beginning. I stretched, developed, twisted, but with the help of others, my spirit eventually burst up from the roots. I was free. I acted, withered, went inside, prayed, acted again, understood anew, as one moment of perception struck. Up from my roots, spirit arms lengthened into strong, green shoots, high-springing servants stepping skyward. Here on earth, God unconditionally continues the legacy of higher love. My AA life put me on a different footing. My roots grasped a new soil. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 12. All right, my friends, that concludes today's reading, and some beautiful stuff as always. My goodness. So real quick out of the big book, page 99. I love this. Making any amends to our families, right? How actions speak louder than words. I love what it says here on the bottom of page 98. It says, though his family be at fault in many respects, he should not be concerned about that. He should concentrate on his own spiritual demonstration. Argument and fault-finding are to be avoided like the plague. In many homes, this is a difficult thing to do, but it must be done if any results are to be expected. Talking about sweeping our side of the street, right? I am going to be honest with you all. This has been on my heart for a couple of days, and I debated on whether or not I was going to share it. But I'm going to share it. Why not? So I had a situation at work happen not too long ago, and let me just put it this way. I felt a comment was made that I felt was a little disrespectful. So I tried to go to this person one-on-one, and didn't go very well, to have a discussion, privately and respectfully, and it didn't go very well. If anything, it made things worse. Probably should have talked to my sponsor before making those direct amends and maybe prayed a little bit more about it. I've always been one like, if there's an issue, let's promptly take care of it, one-on-one, directly, right? Well, anyway, the other person then proceeded to do some pretty unprofessional things after the fact, in front of a bunch of other people, as a result of me trying to iron these things out. So I say all that to say this. Even though I may have, quote unquote, and that's debatable, justifiable anger, I can't afford it. I can only focus on sweeping my side of the street. And what was my part in the situation? Well, maybe I got a little too sensitive. Maybe I read into things a little bit too much. So I'm going to make my amends and only focus on my part. I'm definitely going to talk to my sponsor before I say anything I'm going to regret, but I definitely want to promptly admit my fault and make these amends, whether they're directly or indirectly, today. Just like the big book says here. As soon as I read it, I was like, okay, I got to talk about this. Dang it. Argument and fault finding are to be avoided like the plague. In many homes, it's difficult to do. But, just concentrating on, though the family be in fault in many respects, or in this case, though this lady might be in fault in many respects, he should not be concerned about that. He should concentrate on his own spiritual demonstration. So you know what I need to do? I need to pray for this person and either make direct or indirect amends, to try to right this wrong and only focus on my side of the street. And you know what? Speaking of work too, in the 12 and 12, it talked about that. How sometimes we get on the other extreme, miserly, right? Panicked because now we're sober. Like, oh my gosh, I need to save every dime. I'm so scared, right? And I love this on page 121, halfway down, it says, and worst of all, we forgot God. In money matters, we had faith only in ourselves and not too much of that. And I love this. When a job still looked like a mere means of getting money rather than an opportunity for service. I love that. That each and every day, if we work with people, we have an opportunity to serve people. I just think that's great. That I can put into action service work every single day, not just in the AA meetings, not just with my family, but also on the job. So man, these readings really hit home today. And I got some homework. I got some things to do after this. How exciting it is to have another opportunity to right these wrongs and to be just a smidgen, just a tiny little bit wiser today than I was yesterday. So with that, I hope you all have a great one today, guys. If you're sober, I hope you know that you're a miracle. And if you are not sober, I hope you know that you're a miracle as well and you're worthy of recovery. I pray that you get the help that you need today. And if we're given another set of 24 hours, my friends, I sincerely look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow.